Welcome everyone, welcome back to the loft back in Leeds this week. I hope you are all well and adjusting okay to these shorter, darker, colder evenings. Winter is well and truly here, isn't it? Well, all the more reason to do some lovely yoga. So we're going to do something very different this evening. I don't know if you remember last week I had a bit of a niggly shoulder, which meant that I didn't have full movement in it really. Well, that niggly shoulder then turned into a full-blown tendinopathy in my rotator cuff over the weekend, which basically meant that I couldn't move my arm, and it was very, very painful. So lesson learned, do the exercises that your physiotherapist gives you if you ever have a niggle, because I didn't do mine, and that's why that happened. So it did mean for most of the week, actually, I've not been able to have any movement in my arm. It is much better now, but still kind of doing any kind of downward dog is a big no. Any sort of pressure on the shoulder. So I was initially thinking I should cancel yoga, but then I thought, well, no, we don't have to do lots of shoulder stuff in yoga or any shoulder stuff in yoga. So you'll be pleased to know probably that the class this evening is going to be, we're going to start standing for a start. So we're going to be standing and then slowly kind of make our way down to the mat, but we're not going to be using our shoulders or our arms at all. I thought it would be a good experiment to try and do a class where there aren't any vinyasas, there aren't any downward dogs, there aren't any planks. And it made me realize just how much we use our shoulders in yoga. We put so much pressure and weight on them all the time. And obviously they're very, very fragile, our shoulders. So tonight we're not going to be using our shoulders at all, very like gentle shoulder movements. So it's going to be a really different class, a very different vibe. But we'll see how we get on. You guys are my guinea pigs as always. We'll be doing some like traditional like warrior two legs and things, but with hands on hips. And if you guys do want to come into the full pose, then please be my guest. That's absolutely fine. Sometimes it's hard not to. But yeah, just options there. And it's kind of interesting. You know, a lot of people do have very niggly, painful shoulders or frozen shoulder that can last for months. And you think, gosh, yoga must be so inaccessible to them. Not anymore. Yeah, so it's just, yeah, it's kind of putting focus on different parts of our body, just completely blocking off kind of the upper half of our body this evening and focusing around our legs, lengthening through the spine still lots of lengthening and strengthening, a bit of balancing, lots of nice stretching. So still lots going on, but just giving the arms and the shoulders a complete day off. So enough waffling. As I said, we're going to start standing. You might want to, if you have room, move your mat lengthways today. I'm going to be doing most of the class facing the long edge of my mat, only a little bit towards the end facing the front. It's completely up to you. But yeah, just option there if you do want to mix things up a little bit and have your mat the other way around. So if we stand towards the center of our mat, feet hip distance apart, and let's just take a look down at our feet. Make sure your toes are pointing forward. Let's lift up all 10 toes and then try and place one toe at a time back down on the mat, starting at your pinky. It's really difficult unless you've got brilliant toe control. But just try and spread the toes out and just bring that awareness into your toes. And then bringing a little bit of softness into the body, we can maybe just have a little bit of a rock and roll from side to side, forwards and backwards, just really feeling into the whole surface area of your feet. We want our feet to be nice and grounded. Giving yourself a bit of a massage at the same time. It's quite nice. Okay, so finding the center point of your feet, just bringing a little soft bend into the knees, standing up nice and tall, but finding some softness there as well. We're not going to come into kind of really strong mountain pose just yet. We just want to take it easy to begin with, just feeling into the body, finding some stillness, maybe closing down your eyes. Softening around the face, softening around the neck, the shoulders, and taking some nice, full, deep breaths. So even though we're standing, we still want to feel relaxed. We're still taking this opportunity just to arrive onto our mat, into our bodies, letting any thoughts of the day just drift away. And actually now we're standing, taking some deep breaths, you might be able to kind of use your whole body to inhale and soften as you exhale. Really feeling the torso expand, the ribcage expand as you inhale, maybe finding a bit of length, growing a little bit taller as you inhale. And then as you exhale, maybe slightly softening the knees, feeling the ribcage contract again. Taking a couple more rounds of lovely, deep cleansing breaths. Sighing it out if you need to. Good, and letting your breathing just return to normal. Straightening up the legs, maybe slightly firming the thighs, just finding a little more engagement in our standing pose. Slightly engaging the core, lengthening your tailbone down towards the mat, lengthening up through the spine and up through the crown of your head. Opening the eyes, if you like, you can keep them closed if that feels comfortable for you. We're just going to take some neck stretches, so just dropping one ear down to the shoulder. And then slowly circling your chin down to meet the chest, up the other side. As always, pausing where you need to. If you've got a particular tight spot, please feel free just to hold the position and just ease it out. And just noticing where the weight is in your feet. Is your weight still even through both feet? Are we still feeling grounded? Are we still feeling earthed? Keeping the focus on the breathing. And then slowly bringing your head back to center. Let's take some gentle shoulder rolls just to get some movement into the shoulders. And taking some the other way. And then letting the shoulders melt back and down. We'll take some side stretches, but leaving the hands down. So just let the right hand just drop down towards the mat, nice and slowly. Coming back up to center. And over to the other side. Again, let's keep the weight even in our feet. Just watch we're not putting all of our weight into the side that we're kind of dropping down. Inhaling to come up, exhaling to come down. If we can follow the breath with the movement, the slower the movement, the slower the breath. So really keeping it under control. Using your core to bring you back up as well. So really engaging the core. Slow, controlled inhale up. And exhale down. We'll just do one more each side. We'll just finish the round that you're on. Good. Meeting back in the center. Okay, we're going to dip the chin down towards the chest and then slowly curl our way all the way down to the mat. Let's take a soft bend in the knees. We really want to find the curve of our spine here. Just letting the hands hang forward, and as our knuckles just touch the earth,
We then slowly uncurl back up to standing.
So just starting to find some movement through the spine.
Into the hips, the knees, the ankles. Letting the head hang heavy.
Really feeling like we can stretch out the back of the neck as we come down.
Trying to move slowly with control. Keeping that core slightly engaged to help bring you up. Good, we'll take one more, or just finish the one that you're on, and we'll meet back in our standing position.
This time as you come up to standing, let's take a big inhale. Really lengthen through the spine. Lift up through the crown of the head, keeping those shoulders melted down. Firm up the thighs, so coming into our quite strong standing mountain pose. Firming up the thighs, pulling that belly button back towards the spine, lengthening the tailbone down, kind of reaching down to the mat through your fingertips, spreading out the palms. Bringing the hands to the hips, let's take an inhale, keeping the legs straight this time, folding from the hips, exhaling down, forward fold. This time stretching out the back of the legs, maybe into the lower back. So keeping the legs straight for as long as you can, maybe dropping the hands down towards the mat or keeping them on your hips. Breathing here into our forward fold. If you need some blocks for your hands or any support, please go ahead, use any support that you need. Feeling that lovely stretch through the calves, the backs of the knees, the hamstrings, keeping the thighs engaged. And let's take an inhale into our halfway lift. So reach forward with the crown of the head. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, uncurling all the way up to standing. Lengthening through the crown of the head, not using usually we'd use our arms to really lift ourselves up here, but just using the spine, using all of that length through the torso instead. And again, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, up to standing. And exhale. Inhale, lengthen. Forward fold, exhale. Halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. Inhaling up to standing. Lengthen. And exhale. One more, inhaling. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, forward fold. Inhaling all the way up to standing. Good. Okay, bringing your feet slightly further apart. We're just going to take some little sways from side to side. So just getting a bit of movement into the legs now. Slightly twisting. Maybe just bringing the weight fully onto that foot that we're kind of twisting towards. And then pausing in your twist. So just coming up onto the kind of pointed foot of the leg behind you and just pausing in the twist. And then coming onto the other side. Taking some more in your own time. Okay, then coming back to center, keeping the feet nice and wide, maybe stepping them out a little further. We want the toes pointing towards the kind of outer corners of the mat, so attend to position, bringing the hands onto the hips, coming down into our goddess squat. So just slowly lowering the hips down and then pushing back up again. You want the knees to track directly over the toes if we can. So feel like someone's trying to push your knees in and you're really resisting, keeping the knees pushing out and keeping the spine nice and tall. So we don't want to be leaning forward. Feel like you're sliding your spine down a wall, if we can. See if we can take it a little lower. Take a nice big inhale, reaching up. And then exhaling, we're going to hold our goddess. We can leave the hands on the hips if you want to bring your hands to prayer. Wherever you are most comfy, or you can bring the hands just resting on your thighs. Feel the burn in the legs. Good. Squeezing yourself up, nice strong through the legs engaged. Bringing the hands back to the hips. We'll push the heels out so we come into our wide-legged forward fold stance. So the outer edges of our feet parallel with the kind of top and bottom edges of the mat. And we're going to turn our right toes to point towards the front edge of the mat. Make sure the right foot is bisecting the insole of the left foot. Coming into our warrior two legs, so keeping the hands on the hips, keeping the torso facing towards the long edge of the mat, slowly bending into that front knee, and keeping the hips level if we can. So really pushing that back hip down. You might need to wiggle that front foot forward a little bit. Seeing if we can sink the hips nice and low. Now we're not worrying about our arms here, so just really focusing on the legs. Strong, straight back leg. Keeping the shoulders directly above the hips and really pushing this right knee out to the side. So really opening up the hip area. Breathing here. Good. Okay, straightening up this front leg. Firming up both thighs. We're going to now push the right hip in, bringing the left hip over the right hip into our Trikonasana legs. And again, if you want to bring your arms into the full pose here, please do so. I'm going to stick with my hands on my hips. Keeping those legs nice and strong, lengthening through the torso, really reaching forward through the crown of your head. And if you want to reach forward over that front foot. Breathing. On your next inhale, bringing yourself up to upright. We'll turn the right toes parallel with the left toes, coming back into your wide-legged forward fold. This time folding from the hips, keeping these legs nice and straight if we can. Coming into our Prasarita. And then bringing the hands down onto the mat or leaving them on your hips, wherever, again, you find is good for you this evening. Again, using any props you might need. If you want to keep the legs straight but you can't quite reach the floor, maybe bringing some blocks or a chair in front of you. Or we can bend into the knees as well, that's absolutely fine. Wherever you are, keeping that breath under control, nice, slow, steady breathing. On your next inhale, bringing the hands to the hips, slowly lifting yourself up. Let's turn the left toes out towards the back edge of the mat. Again, just taking a moment to get our alignment right, making sure that foot is directly in the middle of the instep of the right foot. And then as we bend into that left knee, we want to sink that back hip down so our hips are staying on a level line. Quite often we kind of lean forward and this hip is higher than the left hip. So we want the hips to be level. So really you can use the hand on this hip to kind of push that back hip down. See if you can get nice and low. Strong through that core. Strong through that front leg. Strong and straight through the back leg. Really push down through all four corners of your feet. Keeping that length through the spine. Breathing. Seeing if we can go a little lower. And then slowly straightening up that front leg. Firming up the thighs. And we can kind of push that left hip with our left hand. So the left hip goes down, the right hip comes up and over, trying to keep our body all in one plane into our Trikonasana. Firm up those thighs as we come down. Open up the chest, so really feel like that right shoulder is moving backwards. Breathing here. And then slowly bringing yourself back up to center, turning the right toes in, back into our forward fold, our wide-legged forward fold. This time we might want to just open up the chest a little further, maybe just bring the elbows behind you a little bit. Open up the chest as we come forward. So you might not come down quite as far, but keeping that chest nice and open, strong through the legs. Good. Nice big inhale. All the way up to standing. And then releasing the hands. We're just going to step the feet back to our hip distance apart. Good. Crossing the right leg over the left leg. Toes pointing forward, trying to keep the legs straight if we can, folding from the hips into our forward fold. So slightly different stretch here, maybe down through the side of the hip, the side of the left leg. Breathing here. This is a great stretch if you've got tight hips. Wonderful. If you run as well, a really good stretch to do. Steady, slow breathing. Control those exhales. Try and make your inhales and exhales the same length if you can. Slowly bringing ourselves on an inhale all the way up to standing. Let's step the left leg out to the side, coming into a bit of a balance. So let's lift the right leg up to the side. See how high we can get that right leg. Strong and straight through the left leg. And then stepping that right leg down. We'll step the left leg over the right this time. And back into our forward fold. Breathing into the stretch. Where can we find a bit of softness? Can we soften around the face, around the neck? Are you holding any tension anywhere that it doesn't need to be? Inhaling all the way up to standing, bringing the hands onto the hips, stepping the right leg out to the side, coming into our little balance, strong and straight through that standing leg. We lift up that left leg nice and high, and then bringing it back down. This time we'll turn to face the front of our mat, bringing our feet together, squeezing the legs together, coming up onto our tiptoes as we inhale. And as we exhale, lowering the heels down, bending into the knees, coming into our Utkatasana squat. And then inhaling to rise, lengthen through the spine, lifting up onto the tiptoes, and exhaling down. Nice controlled movements here. Taking a few more just in your own time, following your own breath, exhaling to lower. And inhaling to rise. Really working those legs, working those feet, engaging that core. And as you lower, watch your knees not coming over your toes. Remember, keep the weight back in your heels. Tuck that tailbone. Keep that length in the spine. Taking one more lift through the toes. And this time as we lower, we're going to stay down, squeeze those legs together. It's actually a little bit harder not having the arms out in front of you, because I think the arms give you a little bit of balance, don't they? So really keeping strong through the legs, strong through the core. Relaxing the shoulders. And this time as we inhale, we're going to rise up. We're going to bring the left leg up into our standing balance. So bringing that knee nice and high, strong and straight through that standing leg. And then step of faith, leap of faith, stepping back, finding our high lunge. You might need to wiggle that front foot forward a little bit. Sinking down. Finding that lovely stretch through the left hip flexor. And then we're going to straighten up that front leg, straighten up the back, melt the back heel down towards the earth. Don't worry if that heel doesn't quite meet the earth, that's fine. Firm up the legs, folding from the hips. And just seeing if we can even just bring our spine just parallel to the earth. Just finding that stretch through the back line of the body, pushing that back heel down. A little bit of a balance going on here as well. Inhaling up to standing. Let's see if we can rise up onto our tiptoes here. And we're going to bend into both knees, coming down into a bit of a low lunge, just tapping that back knee down onto the mat. And then inhaling, pushing up, straightening both legs, melting that back heel down to the earth. We're going to do that 2 more times. Coming up onto tiptoes, inhale, exhale, coming down, tapping. Inhale, pushing up. And then melting those heels down towards the earth. 1 more, inhaling up. Exhale. Strong through these legs. Inhaling up and softening the heels down. Coming back into our high lunge, bending into that front knee. We're going to find our warrior 3. So taking our weight into our front leg, pushing up through that front leg so it's nice and straight, and then finding our balance. Either pointing that back foot or flexing the back foot, keeping both legs strong and straight. Breathing here. And then slowly bring that left leg forward, coming back into our kind of high knee balance. Lifting that knee as high as we can, and then slowly lowering the foot down. Keeping the feet together, and we'll do that all again on the other side. So as we inhale, coming up onto the tiptoes, exhale into our squat. See if you can feel the difference between your legs. My right leg is definitely feeling it, I have to say. Inhaling, lift, lengthen, rise. And exhale, find that strength in our legs, engage the core, finding our squat. Good, okay, 1 more up onto the tiptoes and we'll meet in our squat. Seeing if we can go nice and low, sinking the hips lower, trying to push out through that lower back, so lengthen that tailbone down towards the mat. Keeping the spine long, keeping the back of the neck long. Good, this time as we come up to standing, lifting the right leg up. Squeezing that knee in towards the chest. But as close as you can get it anyway. Stepping back, nice big step back, finding our high lunge. pushing back through that back leg, keeping the hips nice and even, and actually keeping your hands on your hips really does bring that focus there. So quite often we might swing one hip out to the side. So really keeping the hips facing dead on. Straightening up that front leg, melting both heels down towards the mat and folding from the hips, finding that length through the spine. Just watch we're not curving our back here. If you are, just come up a little bit. Keep the shoulders back and down as we fold forward. So leading with the chest. Breathing. Inhaling to come up, rising onto the tiptoes. And as we exhale, tapping that back knee down, finding our little low lunge, pushing back up, melting the heels, straightening the legs. Inhaling up onto the tiptoes, and then exhaling down. Inhaling up, and exhaling, softening the heels. One more, up onto tiptoes, tapping the knee down, and then finding that softening through the heels, stretching out those legs and finding our high lunge, bending into that front knee, taking the weight into the front knee, finding your warrior three. Trying to keep both legs straight, strong, firming up the thighs, keeping that length through the spine, and then slowly bringing that right foot all the way forward, lifting up the knee nice and high, and then placing that foot down beside your left. Good. Okay, one more. Rising up onto the tiptoes. This time as we come down, we're going to come all the way down to the mat, trying to keep the heels lifted. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And then bringing the knees down into our foot stretch. So keeping the toes tucked under. All the toes tucked under if you can, your little pinky toe as well. And then finding your foot stretch. So if it's a bit intense, we can just bring our weight forward a little bit. You might be perfectly happy sat on your heels. Wherever you are, just taking some breaths, just really feeling into your feet, relaxing any tension around your shoulders, your face, your neck. I know it's not pleasant for some people, this stretch, but it's so, so good for your feet. So just try and breathe through it if you can. We won't be here for too much longer. A few more breaths. Good, okay. Coming forward, just tapping your feet out on the mat. And then sinking the hips down onto your heels. We'll come into a bit of a closed knees child's pose. So you can either bring your hands down underneath your shoulders, or you can bring your arms down behind you and bring your head down to the mat. So just curling up into a little ball, letting yourself rest and really attuning into your breath here. So feeling the breath move through your body. Really feel yourself expand as you inhale and contract as you exhale. Noticing how your body is feeling, how your legs are feeling, any tingling, tiredness, warmth. Good, okay, slowly bringing yourself up to kneeling. We're just gonna shiggle the feet out to the left-hand side. And then just bring that left foot over the right knee. Encourage that left sit bone down towards the mat. Don't worry if it doesn't quite reach. And then just coming into a gentle twist. So just holding that knee with your right hand, bringing your left hand behind you, lengthening through the spine. Using your inhales to lift and lengthen, and your exhales maybe to find a little bit more space in the twist. Good, coming back through to center, bringing that left foot behind us, switching over, just shuffling your feet over to the right, and then bringing your right foot over your left knee, just taking a hold of that your right knee with your left hand, and then making your way into the twist. Inhaling, lift, lengthen, straighten that spine, and then exhale as we just encourage ourselves round. As I've mentioned before, when you go into a twist, it's a constant movement. It's not a stationary position. So just always as you're inhaling, lengthening, exhaling, softening. Constant wave of movement in our twists. Good. Okay, coming back through to center. This time we'll stretch out both legs in front of us, coming into our Dandasana, which is just a seated pose. So legs straight out in front. We want to find a long, tall, straight spine. So I know it's hard to actually tell when you're sat, actually if you're leaning a bit forward or a bit back, you want to try and find a right angle here. So really using your core to lift your spine up, kind of melt the shoulders back and down. So we really want to open up the chest and really, really firm up these legs. So we want to push the legs down into the mat, pull the toes back towards you. So your heels might well lift up off the floor here. We can have the hands just down beside us or just resting on our knees. Depending on the length of your arms, it might be a bit more comfortable to have them on your thighs. But really, it's quite a strong position this. Really focus on lengthening up through the crown of your head and really firming up these legs. Breathing once we're here. Maybe closing the eyes if you find that easier. Constantly engaging, lifting, lengthening, strengthening. Holding for a couple more breaths. Sitting up nice and tall. Good, okay. Relaxing, bending the knees and just curling around the legs, finding a lovely curve through your spine. And then bringing ourselves up, finding our way into our Baddha Konasana. So bringing the feet in towards you, dropping the knees out to the side. And I'll leave it up to you how close or far you want your feet to be. Yeah, you kind of get different stretches according to how close or far your feet are. But wherever you are, pushing down with your knees. So again, feel like someone's trying to close your legs and you're saying no. Pushing down towards the earth. We can use our hands and our feet as well to help. So kind of open up your feet like a book. And then we can give our feet a little massage. So maybe just giving your feet a little bit of TLC. If you want, you don't have to. You might not like your feet. Everyone should love their feet. They do a lot for us. I've got a little bit of an obsession with feet. Not an obsession. I just think we should all give our feet more love than we do. Okay, enough of that. So finding length through the spine here as well. Again, feel free to come forward if that's available to you. And then you can kind of use your elbows on your legs to really help open your legs, open the hips, sorry. Wherever you are, keeping that straight spine if you can, trying not to curve round. Not in this particular version of Baddha Konasana. Breathing. Good, okay, slowly bringing ourselves up. Just using our hands and our knees, helping them to bring them in. And then we'll just take some gentle windscreen wipers with our legs. Okay, shiggling yourself forward a little bit if you need to. We're going to come through to lying. Just reaching the hands forward and slowly curving down, using our nice strong core muscles, lowering ourselves down. Finding length through the spine as we lower down. So we want to find length through the back of the neck, making sure all of our spine is flat on the floor. Let's hug our knees into our chest. And then we're just going to finish with a little bit of core work. So bringing our legs into tabletop. So knees above hips, shins parallel to the ceiling. Don't worry, we won't be here for too long. Let's relax our shoulders down into the mat. Hands come beside us. Let's reach our right foot up towards the sky and then slowly lower down, lengthening and stretching all the way down to hover above the mat. And then back to tabletop. Same with the left, reaching up and then lowering, lengthening, straightening and stretching all the way down, hover above the mat, back to tabletop. And now we're going to try both legs at the same time. Reaching up with both legs, slowly lowering down. Keep the lower back pressed into the mat here. See how low you can go, and then back to tabletop. Okay, one more round. Reaching up with our right. Slowly lower, hover, and then back to tabletop. And the left. Slowly lower, hover, and back to tabletop. And both legs. We got this. Reaching up, strengthening, lengthening, slowly lowering. See how slow you can go. Feel that shudder. Keep the lower back pressed into the mat. See if you can hover the legs just a couple of inches off the floor. And then bringing them in. Let's squeeze the knees into the chest. Oh, good work. Have a little rock and roll around. Okay, we're going to bring the left foot onto the mat. We're going to cross the right leg over the left. Coming into our twist, but with a cross leg variation this week. So we're just going to shift the hips over to the left, over to the right, and then bring the right knee down. Don't worry about how far you come. You want to try and keep both shoulders flat on the mat here. I find it a little bit easier when you've got the cross leg variation. So we can just bring the arms down by the side. If you want to bring the right arm out beside you, of course, out at shoulder height, of course you can. Wherever you are, just breathing into the twist. Seeing if you can let go any tightness around the hips, around the back, the sides. Okay, when you're ready, slowly bringing your knees back up to center, uncross the legs. We'll just shift our hips back in line, squeeze the knees in. Just lift your chin up to meet your knees. And then slowly lower down again, just to reset our spine. Right foot comes flat to the mat, left leg crosses over, shift the hips to the left, and then slowly just bring your crossed knees down to the right hand side. Again, just finding wherever is comfortable for that left arm to be. Noticing if it feels a bit different on each side, where you might feel some tightness on one side, you may not on the other. Just having that awareness of your body. Just being aware of how different your body feels, maybe from when you very first started doing yoga this year. Seeing how your twist might feel quite different or not. Just having an awareness, just noticing what's changing in your body.
keeping the breathing steady. And slowly bringing yourself back to center, uncrossing your legs. We'll have a little squeeze into our little ball. And then bringing the feet down, hip distance apart, toes pointing forward. We'll finish with a few bridges. So just hands down by your side, pushing down through your feet. Let's use that core, tilt the pelvis. Peel the spine up off the mat, all the way up to your shoulders, lifting the hips nice and high. And then slowly, slowly lowering down. Take some rounds in your own time. Let's see if we can inhale the whole way up and exhale the whole way down. And just see how slow we can make that movement. Good, okay, maybe taking one more. Or coming into supported bridge. If you want to have a block under your hips for a little bit, then be my guest. Or make your way into your Shavasana. Or if you want to just carry on doing a couple of bridges, I will leave it completely up to you. If you're coming into your Shavasana, maybe putting on any clothes, any socks, any jumpers, maybe even a duvet. Why not? If I had one up here, then I would. Okay, so just finding your final resting pose. Wherever that may be, legs bent, your supported bridge, your Shavasana. Closing your eyes, just letting your body fully relax. And even though it was a slightly different practice tonight, maybe not quite as dynamic, still done lots of work around the legs, around the core, around the hips. So really letting your body relax, giving yourself this time. There is nowhere else to be, nothing else to do. You have another few minutes of just you time. So relax, enjoy. Starting down at the feet, maybe giving our feet a little wiggle. And just letting them flop, just letting them fully relax, maybe just resting out to the side. And then working our way up through our legs, fully letting go of any tension through our lower leg, the upper legs into the hips, letting our legs be heavy, be fully relaxed. Releasing any tension around the abdomen area, around the lower back. Using your exhales maybe, it really helps to use your exhales to release. And then letting your upper body start to feel nice and heavy as well. Releasing all through the torso, up through the spine, into the shoulders, letting the shoulders feel fully supported by the earth. And then down through the arms, giving the fingers maybe a tiny little wiggle, and then just letting the hands fully rest. relaxing around the tops of the shoulders, into the neck, and then all the way through the head. Soften around the scalp, soften around the forehead. Let any of those little tension lines just disappear and melt away. Relax the jaw, the tongue, the cheeks. And let the whole body relax. Just keeping an awareness through the body. Noticing any kind of outside sounds going on. But just noticing and just letting it go, letting them go, not dwelling on what's going on out there. And slowly bringing your attention to your breathing and taking some slightly longer, slightly deeper breaths. Starting to wiggle your fingers and toes. And then coming into your full body stretch, I'm going to keep my hands down by my sides. If you want to come into your pencil stretch, please do so. And then bringing the knees into the chest, having your last little squeeze, your little rock and roll around. Coming to rest onto your side, I'm going to stay on my back just to rest that shoulder so I'm not squishing it. But by all means, come onto either side. Taking some nice deep cleansing breaths in preparation for coming back up to seated. And when you're ready, on an inhale, finding your way back up to your seated position. Closing down your eyes or keeping them closed as we come into our seated position, kneeling or cross-legged. Once we're there, finding that lovely length through the spine that we've been concentrating on so much today, really reaching up through the crown of your head, grounding down evenly through the sit bones, relaxing around the knees, the hips, the face, the neck, and just letting the shoulders melt back and down. Bringing your hands into our prayer position and blinking open your eyes. Namaste.